I've done shrooms a total of 5 times. Every time I've had a blast, even the last time, which I'll talk about for a second. I took a quarter ounce last time, and I thought there was an extinction level event happening. I went kind of wild. I set my living room up like an operations room. I had a couple friends over to smoke weed, and they kind of went along with everything I was doing, really thinking some shit was going down, until they realized I took shrooms. My fiancé was at the house chilling in the bedroom, fully aware I was on them, keeping an eye on me. At some point I decided I needed to pack a bag and head to Colorado Springs because the world was ending. I asked my fiancé to find the next flight for me and said make the return flight 48 hours from the landing time. Then I grabbed my backpack down from the closet. I packed jeans and a sweater, shorts and button-up shirts. I was under the impression that a guy I went to school with was going to be there too, and I said, "Oh, that fucking pervert is going to be there? Better bring a bikini in case I have to get in a hot tub with him and convince him to do something." My fiancé looked at me with a blank expression. I felt so bad the next day when he told me. I assured him I would never touch that guy especially, but not any other guy either. And he knows that. He thought it was hilarious. I put my hair in a ponytail walking around the house in my bathrobe, drinking from a mug with nothing in it, just blasted out of my mind and reacting to what I thought was the end of the world. Then, he said I carried all my plants to the kitchen to put them on the floor and cried while talking to them and watering them, just telling them how much I love how pretty their beautiful petals are. He put them all back before I woke up and had plenty of funny shit to tell me the next day. Pro tip if you ever go on shrooms. Green and blue glow sticks all over the backyard is a great time too. I rolled around in my backyard for hours just giggling at the glow sticks. I took a royal fuck ton with my friend group in high school. Overall I'd say every experience was magical, but we'll start with the worst. Long story short, my friend wanted to take fungi for the first time and bought an eighth for him and his brother. Smooth so far. About an hour later while we were playing Call of Duty, he tosses me an empty bag and had a huge grin on his face. I asked him, "Did you just eat the entire bag?" To which he responded with an ear-to-ear smile. His brother, on the other hand, wasn't too thrilled. An hour later, we're running after him in the woods trying to look for a place to smoke. We stop at a perch on a hill that ran down into a creek and led into some deeper trees. Shroomed out homie runs down to a creek and starts splashing in it, exclaiming, "Holy shit, it feels like I'm an avatar." Lo and behold, we hear footsteps on the opposite side of him coming from the deeper trees, and I notice 2 flashlights approaching homie in the creek rather quickly. All of a sudden I notice the glint of 2 distinct police badges on their chests moving quickly, and we hear loudly, "Police. Don't move." We put out the roach and look towards shroomed homie to realize he's so fucked up, he doesn't realize the 2 police officers running towards him. I rush down to the creek, pick him up out of the water, and tell him to start fucking running. We ran through the woods, lost the cops, got split up from the group, and met everyone at his house about an hour later. The next day he asked why I ran up on him and told him to run. Explained the cops were closing in on him fast. He didn't believe it as he was having full-blown hallucinations and had to confirm it with the other homies in the group just to make sure I wasn't fucking with him. He ended up thanking me that I didn't just leave him there to get arrested like the rest of the group. I'd say that experience tied for worst, as well as a time I took an eighth for myself around 6 p.m. while everyone was awake in my house. I straight up dissociated into another dimension about 30 minutes after taking them. They came on way quicker than I expected. My mom ended up knocking at my door about 2 hours into the trip. I just sat still frozen in fear. I then heard him, maybe he took off with his friends, and then I felt a wave of relief lift from my soul and further explored the cosmos. It wasn't a bad trip by any means, as I was exploring full-blown beautiful medieval landscapes, talking to people in a language I normally don't speak, and that felt like it hasn't been spoken in 700 years that weren't there, all while laying in a beanbag chair in my room. It was an amazing experience peppered with horrible planning and some of the most intense fear I've ever felt in my life. As for the best time, me and one of my longtime friends from middle school went to one of his new friend's grandparents' house for the night. We were anxious to take them, but the new friend mentioned his grandparents can't sleep, so they take sleeping pills every night. Once 8 p.m. rolls around, we could do whatever we wanted on the first floor since they could sleep through a hurricane. It was a dope setup. The backyard was a small patio with trees surrounding it and had carpets and Aztec-like paintings all over the walls, as well as a large wooden table that served as a rolling tray for the night. We brought an ounce of butt and steady rolled blunts for about 5 hours, just watching the trees morph and breathe while laughing and talking about nonsense for the whole time while peeking into oblivion. It had a weird feeling of nostalgia the whole night. Like I missed one of my old friends and was connecting with him again as well as a new homie, but it was also bittersweet as it was such an enjoyable experience. I knew while I was tripping face, I wouldn't have another trip that felt like this again, so I just enjoyed the moment as much as I could. And I did. It was beautiful. Me and my girlfriend would get to spend a holiday alone in my house since my parents traveled. Me and her really liked to experiment with drugs. One of our mutual friends went to Amsterdam for a while and took magic shrooms there and told awesome stories about his experience. So we decided to buy them. In my country, they are not exactly illegal, but you can't buy them in a store either. We bought it from a guy in Facebook that sends the shit by mail. He looked shady as fuck. He told us his minimum was 6 grams. We thought that was a lot, but bought it anyway. When they arrived, there was actually 8 grams and a note saying he had increased the quantity since it was our first time buying. He was actually a pretty good guy. But the thing is, we would only have one available day to use it and didn't want to keep that shit at home, so we decided to do 4 grams each. Oh boy, we got fucked up. After an hour, we started seeing a lot of visual distortions and mandalas with eyes closed. But even when we opened it, there was also visual changes, like objects seemed like they were breathing or changing color. Now, we are an experienced couple in LSD, but that time the hallucinations were quicker and more aggressive. When it was like 2 hours, my mind was racing and I was starting to feel trapped in my house, so we went to the street to smoke a cigarette. It was a time of the year that the city bugs sprayed the sewer and underground tunnels, so there was a lot of cockroaches running wild. Cockroaches are one of my biggest fears. I never felt so disgusted in my life. We ended up running to another street that looked more clean. I was fiendly calm and smoking my cigarette when I looked inside a car. And I shit you not, there was a person, the whitest I had ever seen. She looked naked and totally immobile. I was scared shitless, but I thought maybe she was dead or something. I went walking there literally shaking. When I got close, I finally saw it. It was a fucking mannequin, like what the fuck, who keeps that in a car, at the driver's seat? At that time, I decided it was probably time to go home again. When we got there, I picked up my guitar and starts playing a song to my girlfriend. In the middle of it, she starts sobbing. I guess she was maybe emotional because of the song, but my mind went full paranoid. I started asking her what was happening, and she couldn't explain because she was getting more and more fucked up. I put her to bed, and she asks me to leave her alone. So I obeyed. When I came out of the room, I started looking at the house, and it looked like there was trash everywhere. Everything was messy and looked filthy. So I decided to do a full 2-hour cleanup in the house while totally fucked up and having shivers all the time. When I ended, I took the most meticulous shower of my life. I scrubbed every square centimeter of my skin. When I got out, was feeling exhausted, so I went to sleep. The next day everything looked kind of dull and colorless, so that was a never again drug moment.